want to tell you, I'm really excited to present her to you because when I was reading through trying to decide who to present, she stuck out to me as she's spunky, she's brave, she resisted a lot of the things that happened in her life. So just to give you a brief background, she grew up in Berlin. She was a member of a working class family. Her parents were Polish citizens, but they were in Berlin working. She belonged to a religious Orthodox Jew family, and she was 6 years old when Hitler came to power. And then I've just taken some of her quotes. I used to go to the park with my friends. It was different in Europe in those days. You could go in the street and nobody harmed you. So to make a comparison of what's going to happen, she lived in a nice city and she remembered having friends that were not Jewish, and they all got along really well. And then, as she started school, her friends that were Gentiles started to refer to her as the Jew, the dirty Jew, and they weren't allowed to play with her. And she couldn't understand it, and she would go home and ask her mom, why are they calling me dirty? I'm not dirty. And her mom would say, you just better get used to it. You're Jewish, and that is what you have to learn, so just take it. And this girl did not want to take it. She got in a lot of trouble at school. She fought with the other kids when they said bad things to her. And she was punished, and her mother was actually arrested twice because of her misdeeds at school. The teachers would call. It was a German school, and they would call in the police. And thankfully, she said her mother, because she was a Polish citizen, they weren't able to hold her. Otherwise, had she been German, she would have had a lot of problems. She also remembers, since she lived in Berlin, she remembers Hitler coming down the street sometimes when they would walk down the street. And I thought it was interesting because the Jews had to walk on a certain side of the street because Hitler was on the other. And she would be there, and her mom would say when he would come by that she needed to raise her arm back in the salute, and she wouldn't do it. She resisted it. And finally her mother said, you better raise your arm. If not, everyone will realize that you're Jewish. And I said, no, I can't do that. I had to do it, but I always rebelled against it. When asked about her awareness of anti-Semitism, as she was growing up, she said that the Der Stürmer newspaper was everywhere, on every corner. And she was always perplexed by the way they portrayed the Jews with the big noses. She said, I don't understand that. I don't think that Jews really do look like that. She also recalled Kristallnacht, the night they burned down the synagogues, and her brother, who was 16, her father and her grandfather were taken from their home, and they were sent to Poland. For 3 days, the family didn't know where they were. But luckily, her father actually escaped, and he came out on the side of Poland and was able to contact his family. He still had brothers and sisters there, and he was able to get word back to his family in Berlin that he was okay and that they shouldn't worry. So he eventually was reunited with them. Now, they eventually had to go to Poland. They were forced out of Berlin. And shortly after they got there, the Nazis arrived. And she was 16 at this point, and she was out walking in the street one night with some friends, and some German police stopped her and said, we're going to take you. And she said, like a smart-mouthed kid, I said, no, you're not. I'm too young. You can't take me. And they slapped her in the face and put her in the car and took her. And 24 hours later, they were all rounded up, and they were sent to a transport camp for a few days. And then later, she was sent to a women's camp and forced to do labor, and eventually separated from her family. Her entire family was gone. They were sent to Auschwitz, and she was left here completely alone. And she was finally sent to Auschwitz, and she said, I cried for 2 days because I knew that I was all alone. I only had one brother, And I really didn't want to live at that point. I never cried again after that time. Today I still cannot cry. I can't cry, I choke, but I can't cry. They took away whatever we had, our watches, our clothes, and everything. They shaved our hair. It was tragic, you know? You're a young girl and they shaved her head. The humiliation that she had to face. We didn't get any food anymore. If you asked me what was the worst in the camp for me personally, it was the hunger. And it was cold. We didn't have much work. We slept in an old factory hall in bunk beds, up and down, in wooden bunks and straw. In January 1945, when she was 19, 3 years later, she was forced into the death march. It was cold. It was the coldest winter in Europe in 1945. They had little food, no shoes, no minimal clothing, and they were forced to walk. And this is what really impressed me about this girl, that she said to herself, I'm not going to make it. I was near the end. I remember when the girls sat down, they were shot. They couldn't walk, they would sit down, and they were shot. So I said to myself, what can I do? I am not going to make it either way, so I'll take a chance. And what she did was duck out of the march into the forest, into the trees, with a couple other girls. And they hid behind the trees and somehow managed to escape. And they were on foot for 2 weeks. They ended up staying in a farmer's barn. They were dressed still in their striped clothing. They couldn't take it off because they didn't have anything else. And this farmer said, yes, you can stay for tonight, but then you've got to move on. And at the end of 2 weeks, they made it to the Russians. She was rescued. In her story, her aftermath, she talks about the psychological difficulties. She spent 20 years trying psychological therapy to no avail. Still had nightmares, still can't sleep. She was paralyzed from being beaten and has had several surgeries to correct that. And she was displaced. In 1977, she finally decided to return to Germany. And she said, the house that I had lived in was leveled to the ground. Apparently it had burned. I felt like I don't come from any place. No background, no home. Like out of thin air, nothing to look back at. And I just respect her so much, the strength, the courage that she would have had to come through an experience like that.